We noticed that the little kids were off to the side, somewhere between bored and giggling, and it wasn't engaging for them because this was really at a level above them. And as I watched them throughout the morning, I thought, you know what, there needs to be some type of activity for them.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 166. Is there a way to spark interest in drones to children at an early age? Today's guests believe they found a way, and in doing so, they feel it might open future opportunities for women in the drone industry. Sharon Rossmark is founder and CEO of Women in Drones, the largest online platform for women in the UAS industry. The platform enables women to connect, collaborate, and make global business connections to grow their network. Wendy Erikson is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and host of the popular Women in Drones podcast. Both are FAA certified remote pilots. Recently, Women in Drones published 2 children's books on drones. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Sharon and Wendy talk about women in drones, STEM education, and how the 2 books are encouraging young girls to look at drones for fun and perhaps later in life, pursue a career in the drone industry. But before we hear from Sharon and Wendy, I want to thank those of you who have been supporting my funding campaign on Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. Go to patreon.com/drone radio show to join the team. Now let's learn how 2 books are encouraging young girls to explore drones and technology. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Sharon and Wendy to introduce themselves.
My name is Sharon Rossmark. I'm the founder of Women in Drones, and I am a FAA certified remote pilot.
My name is Wendy Erikson. I'm a broadcast journalist. I handle digital media as well as a podcast for womenindrones.com. I'm also an FAA certified remote pilot.
Sharon, can you start by giving us a brief overview of what Women in Drones is all about?
So our mission is actually twofold. We feature women who are disrupting, innovating, and shaping the future of the UAS industry, thus allowing them to make global business connections for their business and or their hobby. Our second part of our mission is really our educational platform, which focuses on learning through the wonders of flying robots. And our mission in that effort is really about exposing kids to STEM in a fun fashion, learning about drones, learning about aviation, and learning about flying robots through our methodology of the wonders of flying robots.
Tell us about the children's books that have been published about drones.
So we just launched 2 books near the end of May. The first book is Fun with Drones, and it's a coloring and activity book. It's really a way to give parents and teachers an engaging methodology to introducing drone technology to young children. It helps them learn basic vocabulary and safe practices that are important for them to know before actually attempting to fly a drone. And the book is filled with activities like coloring and counting drones, as well as word puzzles and mazes.
What ages would be most appropriate for the books?
Our target ages for the book is age 5 through 8.
And that's always hard to pinpoint. There's certainly more kids, 5-year-olds, who are more advanced in their reading skills and math skills. But targeting around 5 through 8.
What made you feel a book about drones would work for children of that age?
Well, I've raised 3 daughters. They're now 23, 20, and 16. But I know that kids are interested in puzzles and coloring. My girls were big into coloring. And so this activity book has a lot of that, as Sharon mentioned, and counting the drones. And, you find the drone and then the pages of what's the difference, where you have 2 pictures that are almost identical, but kids have to pick out the differences. And kids just seem to love that kind of thing. I know my own kids did. But as Sharon mentioned, we also sneak in there some of the terminology, and we envision that parents as well as kids are going to be learning these things about drones. I I know there are a lot of parents out there who don't know a lot about drones. So smart drone flying tips. Let's start them off at the age of 5, knowing that you should fly below 400 feet in the air, never fly near other aircraft, and never fly too close to the airport, those basic kinds of principles. Also, words that you should know, words like data and hobby versus recreational use. Of course, we in the industry know those terms very well, but let's get kids in the younger age groups. 5 years old is kindergarten, first, second, third grade is what we're targeting. What's a safety checklist? Why is it important to have a safety checklist? So maybe they would consider those pages not as exciting, but then they move on to one of our puzzles, the crossword puzzle, where you're spelling out drones, which intersects with the word battery, and giving them those challenges. So they're learning while they're having a good time.
What's the second book about?
Yeah, so the second book is called Drone Girls and the Airshow Adventure, and it's introducing 2 friends, Erica and Lindsay, who love to fly drones. When they find out that there's an air show nearby that includes a drone competition, they can't wait to go. The girls get more out of the big day than they imagine as they meet female pilots. They learn a lot about hot air balloons and imagine themselves in a command of a real space shuttle. So we expose them to various aircraft that they may typically not have seen in person. Many kids may have flown on a plane or at least been exposed to a plane, seen one on TV or in the movies, but we wanted to introduce them to aircraft that they probably have seen from far away or maybe never seen at all.
Now, are there many other books geared towards young kids in technology?
I would say that there are great books out there about introducing kids to science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. But there are very few, and I would almost just stretch it to say no books targeting girls with drones introducing STEM concepts. I think we are among the first to do that. And I think that is the big difference. Both of our books that we've released, the activity and coloring book, as well as this Drone Girls and the Airshow Adventure, the majority of characters in the books pictured are girls. And that is something that I can tell you I never see very often. And so that is the big thing that stands out with our books for this younger age group, as well as the fact that we're using drones to get girls and boys interested in science, technology, engineering, and math.
Why is it important to introduce those concepts to girls of that age?
Well, I can, again, speak from experience as a mother of 3 girls, how hard it was for me to interest my girls in sticking with math and science. They wanted to follow what their friends were doing, or there are girls who are interested in more traditional girl things, despite my best efforts to get them interested in, robotics or what have you. I think what I found with my girls is that it was really important to give them examples of women who are already succeeding in STEM roles so that they can better envision themselves along those pathways. My oldest daughter, again, I had this talk with her about what she was going to major in college, and she was very good at math and science, but kind of wanted to head towards a journalism side of things, which is what my career is. And I said, but why, had this talk with her over and over, why wouldn't you want to just pursue, engineering? So I had to give her examples of women who are in engineering roles and what their actual jobs are. Because when you tell any child, you give them the categories of doctor, lawyer, engineer, photographer, they have, whatever preconceived notions in their mind, what that might be. They don't know how many different kinds of jobs are in engineering. And so like we did with womenindrones.com, our website, we show stories and share stories of women who are in the drone industry. With our books here, we're showing girls who are excited about drones. That gives them a role model and somebody that they can say, wow, if she can do that, I can do that as well.
The second book seems to have elements of collaboration and teamwork. Is that one of the themes in the book?
Absolutely. You've hit the nail right on the head. And actually, the Drone Girls is going to be a series. We're scheduled to come out with the second book in August. And the plan is really to show girls that one, they can still be friends and be girls and be themselves and experience all the adventures associated with drones and aviation. And as Wendy so well described, just understanding that this is all STEM and that they can select careers that they probably traditionally would not have thought about.
To your point, Randy, girls love to be surrounded by other girls. A best friend, another one is fine, or it's bunches of girls. So there seems to be camaraderie amongst girls. And I think when Sharon originally came up with this story idea for Drone Girls and the Airshow Adventure, she hit the nail on the head in having two girls who are best friends on these adventures while they're flying their drones.
Did you work with STEM educators on formulating the books? And are they being used for that purpose?
So when we first were drafting the books and as we went along, we did engage educators to particularly give us some feedback in terms of the target age as well as the storyline. Since they just hit, we have not reached out and had any immediate feedback from educators other than conceptually what they love about the books, as Wendy so well described, exposing girls and giving them role models to look at as well as letting them think out of the box and empower themselves.
Can they be used as part of a lesson plan?
Absolutely. We have heard from camp programs and other social organizations that are ordering books to utilize in after-school programming and so forth.
I'm sure there are many ways that educators can use the books, but can you share one idea?
Yes, I think depending upon the age, again, a class of kindergartners, you read them the story, Drone Girls and the Airshow Adventure, you show them the pictures, and then, the teacher has a little drone in the classroom. I think that's a great idea. Talk about an attention grabber.
In addition to the books, what else is Women in Drones doing to promote the education side of drones?
We've started holding workshops for parents, for community groups, for libraries. We really introduced the concept of drones. What we found is that in general, most people know about drones through the news, through the media, and generally they may have a perception. And so what we started doing is holding these workshops that allow us to engage the community to just educate them on drones, how drones are changing the world for the better, how drones are actually saving lives and the various industries. And generally what ends up happening is that, especially the adults, they're quite surprised by all the various industries that have incorporated and started utilizing drones for saving lives, improving efficiency, and or improvement in overall business operation.
Personally, I think the books provide a great tool for kids and parents to learn the technology, the rules, the safety aspects, and how to have fun. I think they would foster a lot of discussion.
And to your point, Randy, I just wanted to mention Microsoft Corporation has done some great research on STEM education, and they found that 75% of girls who participate in hands-on STEM activities outside of the classroom feel a real sense of empowerment. That, to me, means as a parent that my girls never were wanting to appear in the classroom as though they didn't know the answer to a question, so maybe they didn't raise their hand. Or if there was a classroom, say there was a classroom activity, and they were going to have to be put on the spot. They didn't want to do it if it was going to embarrass them. In my experience, girls are a little more conscious of that than boys. So what that Microsoft research was telling me is that girls who do things outside of the classroom, like an after-school STEM club, they let their fears subside when they're with a bunch of other girls, and they will do those kinds of things and build their confidence a little bit. So I see, to your point about read the story to them in the classroom, and maybe you have a teacher who is brave and wants to try flying a drone in the classroom, because that is an issue as well. Some teachers wouldn't be comfortable with that, but do all of that and then encourage some more of that activity outside of the classroom. But our Drone Girls and the Airshow Adventure, as well as the stories to come, is definitely a great starting point to start the conversation.
Can you comment on what it means in the long run for young girls to learn about drones and how that might steer them into a technology field later in life?
Right. The whole nature versus nurture when it comes to technology. Why are our girls not going into technology as much as our boys are? And some other research that I read, I believe it was even through Microsoft, was talking about the importance of parents at home steering their kids in that direction, in addition to teachers at school. The importance of that kind of collaboration so that the kids are getting it from both ends. Then when they hit the point, which is in middle school and early in high school, when kids have to start making those choices about what maybe their career path is going to be and what college they're going to go into, then that's when those discussions kind of, they're hearing that in their minds and helping them make those choices to go in that direction and not follow what all of their friends might be doing. They're hearing what their parents were telling them.
Give us a description of what's inside the books and what children and parents can learn.
Because as I said before, parents themselves might be curious about drones and not know a lot about them. We start from the very beginning, where we have a page that is why teach children about drones. That's the title of the page, and we talk about why drones are a great teaching tool. Drones are an exciting subject for students, and they just light up when they see those drones flying. So you've got their attention, which is half the battle when it comes to teaching children. We talk a little bit about the book itself and what's a drone? How do drones help people? Can flying drones be my job when I grow up? We also go into why are drones called drones. I know a lot of adults who ask that question all of the time, and there's no cut and dried answer, but we try to explain a little bit about that, having to do with the military and bees themselves. So, and as I said, we do go into a little bit of vocabulary and terminology, very easy, basic stuff. We show the parts of a drone, and kids can color that in, and then we intersperse with some pictures of people flying. We have, as I mentioned, lots of images of girls flying their drones. We talk about how drones are used. There's an image of drones can be used to help people, and that would be referencing drones dropping life preservers to somebody who's struggling in the water. True life scenarios. We talk about how drones can be used to help design buildings, and there's a picture to color where girls are flying, and there's some buildings in the background. So we're trying to introduce some of the career possibilities. The fact that kids do know that drones take pictures. I believe photography is probably, the thing that drones are most known for. And my girls love the concept of the drone selfies. You can do your selfies on the ground, but you can also do your selfies from the air. So we're trying to, as I said, appeal to kids on their level while teach them some of the safety fundamentals and practical scenarios when it comes to the drone industry.
Is there a story behind the writing of the books?
So that's an interesting story. Last summer, we were doing a proof of concept around summer camp programs for introducing drones to kids. An organization brought us in to conduct a one-day, what I would call flight school, ground school and flight school for a group of middle and high school kids, predominantly high school kids. But the camp also included smaller kids. And so during the morning, when we were walking the kids through the actual participants through the ground school portion, which is where we cover FAA regulation and drone safety and the parts of the drone and how drones work and so forth, we noticed that the little kids were off to the side and somewhere between bored and giggling, and it wasn't engaging for them because this was really at a level above them. And as I watched them throughout the morning, I thought, you know what, there needs to be some type of activity for them to engage in. And that kind of sparked the idea, and I started bouncing the concept off of Wendy, and we just kept kicking it around until we really landed on the direction we wanted to go.
How was the writing process?
I would say the process was, first of all, very collaborative. Wendy and I worked very well together. The most difficult part is that this is the first time either of us had published a book. And so the process of publishing was probably more difficult than the process of writing, as well as our need to focus on the attention of detail. But the collaborative part made it fun because by us both having knowledge and being FAA certified pilots, we both understood the topic as well as what we wanted to convey. It was just a matter of formulating the idea and targeting it for younger kids.
When did you know that you had something in front of you that you were happy with?
Probably about the 6th revision, Sharon. I think you never know that it's exactly perfect the way you want it. At least I feel that way as a journalist. I could keep writing and revising something for weeks, months, but at some point you just have to stop. At least that's how I feel. But I'm very proud of what we've come up with. And, we might get some feedback from somebody who, helps us change something. I do want to say that it is interesting to me, again, referencing my children who years ago, it's been a long time since we've read our books like Goodnight Moon and Dr. Seuss and all of those. When we were writing this book, Sharon and I were going back and forth about differences. There's a point where the girls are reading something about the Airshow, and Sharon smartly put in there, they're reading it off their tablet because, kids have tablets and phones these days, and that's where they get their information from social media. So, you have to write a children's book to remembering that children 2018 have more technology than we did back in the day, even when my children were reading books. So it's those little differences. When my own girls read the book, there were a few words that they said, Mom, we don't say that. And so they had me change the word. So that was kind of the interesting part.
And you mentioned that this was part of an ongoing series. How might that series evolve?
Well, the girls will continue on various adventures related to drones. We obviously are keeping under tight wraps the next book, which, as I mentioned, will be released in August, the whole scenario. But it will be a series on the adventures of Erica and Lindsay.
And where can people find the books?
They can certainly go to womenandrones.com, and they can also go out to Amazon.
Is there anything about the books or STEM education that we missed and should talk about?
The books are for boys and girls, but we are trying to fill what we see as a gap for girl-specific characters and subject matter. So I think that is one of our niches, that we're showing that girls are prominent in our books for a reason.
Sharon, any thoughts to add?
Drones are an ideal tool for introducing kids to the fundamentals of STEM. And, at some point when they start maneuvering and flying a drone, they'll find also that it helps kids with problem solving and critical thinking skills. And so by introducing this to them at this very early age, we think it will garner their interest in pursuing additional career opportunities down the line in various STEM fields.
Okay, let's move back to women and drones. What can we look for from the platform in the future?
On the horizon, we've got several things on our whiteboard. We've just sent out a survey to our members just last week because a lot of the input that we have been receiving through our inboxes on the website really focused on a need for a retreat. And so we wanted to go to a broader audience. So we just put out a survey to our audience just last week asking them for input on are they interested in a retreat, where and what activities, particularly around drones, would they be interested in having as a part of the trip? Wendy, additional thoughts?
What works with women in drones is the fact that we tell stories about women who are working in the industry or they're hobbyists in the industry, and they're from around the globe, and they just needed to find some other women to talk about what they're doing with their drones and ask questions. And we've got women who are drone racing. We have women who are using drones for wildlife research. We have women who are using drones in engineering. And just by posting these stories on the Women in Drones website, it gives women encouragement and it gives them energy, and it answers some of the questions that they have about maybe going into a career that is not that might be outside of their comfort zone. And, this industry is not just made up of people who fly drones. There are women and men who design the drones, or they're the ones who are coming up with accessories for the drones. They're the photographers. There's just so much opportunity in this industry. And we just wanted to create a place for women in particular to connect and exchange ideas, collaborate. And I think Women in Drones is filling that space.
And for my final question, What message would you like to leave women about the opportunities for them in the drone industry?
One of the things I always say is that the sky is the limit. I encourage women to jump in and find their space, to find what specifically interests them, and become a sponge, learn all that they can, and then reach out to others. And that's one of the things that we do so well at Women in Drones is connecting and collaborating with women around the globe. And so I always encourage them to ask for help and, of course, attend the conferences, because not only do you learn a lot, you also meet different people that you normally wouldn't cross paths with. And then I would say, finally, I would just say, if you're willing to put forth the effort, others are willing to help you along your learning curve. So come on in and join us.
The numbers as of the end of 2017, in terms of the women who had gotten their remote pilot certification, the number is inching closer to 5% are women compared to the rest of them, which the number was about 70,000 total, were men. But we're seeing that number increase of women who are wanting to get into drones commercially. So we're encouraged by that, and hoping that by starting girls younger, and 5 through 8 years old, that we will help that number continue to climb.
That's it for episode 166 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Sharon Rossmark and Wendy Erikson of Women in Drones. I want to thank Sharon and Wendy for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Women in Drones or want to connect with Sharon or Wendy, check out the webpage at womenindrones.com. If you're interested in the 2 books, you can purchase them via the Women in Drones website or Amazon. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.